if she sees you as a beta, she's always going to see you as a beta. And the idea of like the work you have to put in to get out of that frame versus just starting over. Because I agree with you
Yeah,
totally.
when she sees you there, then
But
you're kind of screwed, right? Like when she
yeah,
basically sees you as a beta male,
yeah,
she doesn't look up to you. She
yes.
gets up in the morning, she's disgusted by you. She doesn't want to sleep with you. She'll cry after sex, for example. I've heard stories like this, bro. You're kind of screwed. It's very, very, very difficult to fix that. There's a lot of like subreddits out there and like men's coaches and like masculinity coaches that will try to convince you that you can fix it and you can just, lean into God, or you can lean in your masculinity and grow a beard and drink darker beer sort of thing, and that'll fix it all. But for the most part, once she sees you as a beta, she's always going to see you as a beta. I mean, it's easier to construct a brand new relationship than it is to fix an old broken one,
You
right?
guys hear that? Grow a beard and drink darker beer. Man, she'll come running back.
Yeah, a lot of guys will, again, she touches his pee-pee, he gets into a long-term relationship, married, girlfriend, whatever. If you go through the process of betatization through 1,000 concessions, which isn't a question of if you're going to go through it, it's just to what extent, okay? Because women will shit test guys, and if you yield, then you will start going through the process. Not everybody gets betatized though, right? Like some guys will push back. Even me, the guy that wrote the book, that makes the videos, that has 500 million views on YouTube, even I have to check myself sometimes to make sure that she's in my frame, sort of thing.
So here's the thing. You said before about a scarcity mindset, and you talked about people having a victim mentality, right? Rule number 3 in Men of Action is abundance is always the answer, unless you have a heroin addiction. But abundance is always the answer. So when guys ask me, I want to get over my ex, I'm like, you need to see more women. When guys ask me, I want to get my ex back, the answer is, you need to see more women. When guys ask, I want to get better at dating, the answer is, you need to see more women. When guys ask me, like, what should I do in order to get better at reading? I was like, well, you need to read more books, by people, by mentors, that people that you look up to. I want to get better at business. You need to read more books by people, mentors you want to look up to. What do I do in order to get better with my fitness? You need to hang out with more people who are in the shape that you want to be in. What do I do when I want to get better with my business? You need to find more entrepreneurs that have the business that you already want. The answer is always abundance. The answer to get over your problem or to get rid of the problem is always the same answer, right? The answer is more and better. And so that's why I say, when you were talking before about how do I fix this relationship, find out, like, there's probably a lot of guys right now who are watching this who like think about a relationship that they're trying to fix. If you set boundaries around yourself and actually started dating other women, you're all of a sudden going to get this DM, where you at? What are you doing? From her, out of nowhere. And this goes back to a previous thing we talked about. How do we show that? We actually show it on social media. This is one of the other things why I think social media is so important, is because when I do level up, I don't want to brag about it, but there needs to be some passive way for me to show it. And when you do that, it's incredible because of the scalability of it, how much you can show when it comes to something like that. So I agree with you. Like, don't try to fix those other relationships. Go off to other ones, and you'll be shocked at how many of them like come right back for you.
You'll be surprised the amount of steps that they want you to take to try to fix a broken relationship. I mean, look, I get it if you got small kids and you're married and you've got your not tied up, with a life of another person sort of thing, and you don't want to lose access to your kids. You don't want to lose access to your financial resources. You want to give it the good college try. Some guys might fix it. But I think, for the most part, like we said earlier, once a woman sees you as weak, incompetent, basically as a soy boy, beta male, you're going to have a hard time fixing that. And to be honest with you, for the most part, most guys don't have the gumption to fix it if they're still in that relationship,
Yeah.
if they still have her around. It's only when they lose her completely and they hit rock bottom and chaos ensues. And it's like, oh, well, she left me for Steve from accounting. Like, why did that happen, sort of thing. Then they start going looking for answers on the internet or on YouTube, and they find something like a clip that I said something. That's when they start, like, that's when it hits them,
Yeah.
sort of thing. And then they're willing to really do the work. But, for the most part, a lot of these guys, once they've been betatized and she's literally disgusted by him, like she doesn't even want to touch him, sort of thing. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They'll go and get some stupid book like the 5 love languages and think that they have to give her words of affirmation or some bullshit like that. And that book's been disproven, by the way, 100 ways.
Bro,
Like,
oh
yeah.
my God. Have you seen the meme? It was like at some point, men need to decide whether or not they want to call out women for astrology or get laid. Have you ever seen that
Yeah,
meme? That's
yeah.
hilarious.
You can go to your energy crystals and your astrological signs, but it's not going to work, man.
Oh
She
my
needs to
God.
look up to you. She needs to be excited by you.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's just the reality of the world, man. Like we know that the vast majority of women have reproduced throughout history,
Yeah.
but I think something like 25% of men have reproduced throughout history. So
Oh, it's
for most guys, it's
it's
been a dead end.
yeah, yeah. 25%. Yeah, correct. Yeah, I was trying to explain this to some people before because they were like ungrateful, and I was like, well, do you realize before the year 1850, half the Earth's population died before the age of 5,
Mhm.
and way more than 50% of men who've ever lived died a virgin. Way more than 50%.
Yeah.
And then when they hear that, they're just. I had a friend of mine, a female friend. I kept throwing these facts at her, and her response was, "It's not my response. Your dick is not my responsibility." And I was like, "There you go. That's the proof of what I was trying to say before." And then in the end, then they're like, "Well, there's no good men." And I was like, I know 50 dudes who would go out with you right now, do anything you want, but because you keep seeing the dude with the Lambo, you can't what's it called? Recalibrate to understand what's going on. And then you end up, next thing you know, you're 40 and you don't have a relationship. You don't have any kids. You don't have a husband. And that's the reason why.
Yeah, and those same 40-year-old women are the ones sitting on the view talking about, men need to, man up or grow up or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
there's no 40-year-old guys that I know that are worth their salt, that have their life together, that have a nice car, great life, lots of money, influential, they're competent, they're interesting, that are dating 40-year-old women. They're dating
Yeah.
younger, hotter women. That's just what men do.
Yeah.
I'm close to 50 now, right? So I'm in an LTR. My gal's great. I have a great life. I've I I can do pretty much anything I want. Like I can go where I want. If it doesn't work out in my relationship, fine. I can get a new one, or I can get a whole bunch of new ones simultaneously. It doesn't matter. I don't worry the way that I did. Like I don't have the same scarcity mindset that I did maybe in my 20s, or even in maybe my mid 30s, sort of thing. The sooner guys can figure out, how to unplug from the matrix and really take a good close look at the way the world really works, not what you've been told the way that it works,
Yeah.
the better off that you'll be.
We briefly mentioned this before, and it's the concept of men and rejection. I look at rejection as literally the weight that the world provides for me to lift for me to become stronger. And because of that, I feel like normal men, they have to deal with rejection on an everyday basis. For some of us, it beats us down. For me, it's motivation. If you're LeBron James, or if you're incredibly good-looking guy, or if you were born extremely rich, or if you're an extremely attractive woman, I feel like there's this dissonance between your actual value and then what you think your value is, to the point sometimes where it's delusional.
Mhm.
And I think that delusion happens because you're not dealing with rejection all the time. But for 99% of men, the world is telling us we can't afford that car. We're not good enough to get that girl. We don't have enough money for this. We don't have the skill set. The world is consistently rejecting us. And so there's two avenues. We take this rejection and use it as motivation, or we take this rejection and then we start saying, all women the world, and then we start talking about conspiracy theories. And I was just wondering, like, you've mentioned it before in your book, you use rejection as a motivation.
I mean, I've always said don't lose, learn, right? So, I mean, you can call that rejection, but business transactions, dealing with women, with friendships, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you can sit there and cry like a little bitch, or you can look at the situation and just say, okay, well, that's an interesting lesson that cost me. I've had lessons that have cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It's like, I don't sit there and cry about it and say, oh, I was rejected, or that cost me too much money, or how am I ever going to make the money back? It's like, okay, that was $100,000 lesson. I'm not going to do that again. And we'll go off in this direction, and I'll never let that happen, sort of thing. Every successful entrepreneur, every successful guy that I know has been ripped off, rejected, hurt, you name it. They're there because they got back up. So it's a matter of, what are you going to do? You're going to lay down like a little bit and cry, or are you going to get back up and go and do the work, dust yourself off, and then fix things, right?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, definitely.